It's time for the Sideline Report with Oliver Maroney, Jamie Hudson. Oliver, it's been a while since we had one of these podcasts. How are you doing?
Not too bad. How about yourself?
Doing good. Of course, we're talking Trailblazers, and we got to look ahead to the playoffs as well. Where do you want to start, Oliver?
I think we kind of wanted to just kind of start with a discussion on where the Blazers sit in the playoff mold, and then who are they up against, you know what I mean, in that bottom three, I guess, seeds down there. They're really up for grabs. You've got Dallas, you've got Houston, you've got Utah, and then kind of moving towards the future, 14, 15 games when the playoffs start, where do they sit? Kind of sitting in there and trying to figure out where they are. I mean, you've got Golden State up top. That would be obviously the 1-8 matchup, which a lot of people in Portland would like to see entertainment value-wise. And then, of course, number 2 is pretty locked up with the Spurs. So it would be 2 and 7 if the Blazers could get up to the 7th seed. Or if they can make it up to the 6th seed, then you're looking at potentially, the Clippers, Oklahoma City, Memphis probably won't make the 3rd seed. But those other 2 teams would be there. So where do we want to see us? I mean, I like the matchup against the Clippers more than any of the other teams, but that's just me. I don't know. What do you think?
I think Clippers for sure. You talk about, though, the fans wanting to see that Warriors-Blazers, all the long-distance shooting, that matchup. But fans also want to see the Spurs and going up against LaMarcus Aldridge, of course. So those 2 teams, though, I wouldn't want to see them in the playoffs.
No, it's going to be I would assume a sweep or close to a sweep. Those teams are going to be geared for the playoffs. I think that Golden State and San Antonio will be raring to go in that first round. And with home court advantage, those 2 teams are both undefeated at home so far. So really you're playing against the 2 toughest teams to play. And they're the top 2 teams in the NBA, Eastern or Western Conference. So you really don't want to go against them as much as it appeals to the fan. I think that really you want to try and get that 6th seed. If you can get the 5 seed, great. Then you go against, like I said, LA or potentially Oklahoma City. I think both of those matchups work out better in our favor. Oklahoma City obviously just beat us pretty poorly or badly, I guess you could say, last night. But moving forward, I'd say the Clippers are really the spot that you'd want to be at.
Definitely. So we have 14 games left on the Blazers schedule, Oliver. I know you kind of mapped it out.
Sure.
Let's go game by game what you think's going to happen.
Sure. So I think the Spurs game coming up on Thursday is going to be a loss. I think that's just – I mean, it's going to happen, unfortunately. I mean, you've got so many talented – individuals. LaMarcus is playing really, really high level right now, and then you've got Kawhi Leonard, in my opinion, the second person down from Steph Curry in the MVP race. So the Spurs are really, really dangerous. I just don't think that I can see us get a win on the road against a tough San Antonio team with rest. So that will be a loss. Moving on, we'll get to the Pelicans there, and that will be an away game as well. How do you feel about the Pelicans?
I think that's definitely a win. Yep, I got a win in New Orleans for sure.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a win too. I think that Anthony Davis is scary, but for the rest of the team, they've just been struggling. They just cannot find their rhythm. They can't find a shot. They're all really inconsistent players. Tyreek Evans, Drew Holiday, you just never know when they're going to play and how much they're going to play. Alvin Gentry really hasn't solidified himself as that head coach that we all thought he'd be. So I think that's probably a win. But then moving forward, you've got the Mavericks twice. One away from home, one at home. I think we probably split. I don't think we're going to win both of them. I don't think we're going to lose both of them. But the return of Wesley Matthews again, which will be interesting. But I think overall, I think we'll split those 2. And then moving forward, you've got the Clippers, the 76ers, the Kings, Celtics. And really, I look at it, you've got the Clippers as a loss, I think, and then the 76ers and the Kings are one of the two of the worst NBA teams currently, so I think both of those should be wins, barring any setbacks. And then the Celtics, I think, is another loss. I think their backcourt is one of the best in the NBA. Avery Bradley, Marcus Smart, that whole duo down there with Brad Stevens, I think, is really impressive. So that, I think, will be a loss. And then we've got Miami. I am curious to think, what is your opinion on the Miami Heat overall?
That's a good question. I think the Blazers are going to beat the Heat. They've been up and down this season for Miami. But one thing about the Celtics, the Blazers are going to have 2 days off before they play Boston. So maybe they're going to get that revenge game because we remember what happened in Boston. Wasn't pretty. So I do think that the Blazers can get past the Celtics at home. As for the Heat, it depends on Miami Heat team shows up here in Portland, right?
Yeah, definitely. That'll be a good game at home. I'm sure it will be a sellout. You've got obviously Dwayne Wade playing well lately. You've got Dragic, who's actually playing at a higher level now. Obviously Hassan Whiteside, who everybody talks about as kind of King Whiteside or whatever you want to call him, but he's one of the most athletic centers that we've seen in this game, and then barring any setbacks or injuries or anything like that, hopefully the Blazers are at full health to play them, because I think that's going to be a key in this game, is to be able to manage the rotation. The Miami Heat bench, it hasn't been as strong as of late. Joe Johnson came in hot, and now he's kind of becoming that streaky player that we've known him to be. So,
with Whiteside, I just got this Twitter account. It was called Whiteside Alerts. So it's a whole Twitter account on Whiteside, and they started following me as if I was going to bring them some Whiteside alerts, possibly.
There you go. No,
maybe they're looking ahead to that Blazers Heat game. I don't know.
Who knows? I don't know. I mean, Whiteside alerts, they're probably looking out. They know that Jamie Hudson has been at, Alan Crabb alerts and all sorts of different alerts,
There you go.
Could be anywhere. So, moving forward, I think you've got the Warriors, which is probably a loss. Depending on where they are, though, this is the interesting part about the Warriors is, if they lose a couple more games here, I think they're out of that contention to win, get over 73 games or get that Bulls record. And if that's the case, you may start to see Kerr and company rest a lot of guys down the stretch. I mean, there's no real point. They're only, I think, like 2 games ahead of San Antonio right now, which is crazy to think that they're so good. But as long as I keep that one of the last games of the season, I can assume that the Blazers may end up getting an easy win there, if they're out of that contention or out of that race. Yeah. Then you got the Kings, who I think is another win. I just think that whole – I don't know what you think about George Karl and like the whole mess down there in Sacramento, but I think it's got to be ownership and the GM.
I've always respected George Karl. I grew up in Washington, so I was a Seattle Supersonics fan. Always loved Coach Karl. Sure. To me, it's just DeMarcus Cousins, man. That's the problem in my mind.
Really? Okay, so I mean, I like DeMarcus Cousins as a player. I think he's just really versatile, one of the best bigs in the game. I think he's gotten kind of a bad rap. Obviously, he's kicked a couple coaches here and there and done a bunch of other things that probably were not okay, immature, whatever you want to call them. But I think the ownership and the movement between coaches, it really takes a toll on a player, especially like a guy like DeMarcus Cousins who enjoys winning so much. You can definitely tell he's a competitive guy. Right. And I think in the right situation, I think he's going to thrive. I would look to see the Kings move him, actually, in the offseason. I just don't think that's a safe place to be anymore for him. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
Moving forward, you got the Thunder.
Right.
So the Thunder are probably a loss, depending on where they are in the seeding. All these games down the stretch, if you're playing a playoff contender, a lot of the times they start to separate a little bit more. Obviously, in the top 4 seeds, I think in the West, there's quite a big gap between the top 4 and the bottom 4. Mm-hmm. So you may see Oklahoma City rest some guys. We may be able to get some wins at the end that weren't expected to get. So moving on past the Thunder, you're looking at the Timberwolves and Denver, who should be wins. Mm-hmm. And that would put you right at about, if you're Jamie Hudson, you're at 8-6, and if you're Oliver, it's 7-7. So close enough. I think it's 500. That would probably get you in the playoffs. I'm assuming probably in that 7-8 seed is just my guess.
Mm-hmm. I know everyone was thinking in that first road trip when they went 3-0, the road trip 2 weeks ago, the first big road trip of March, that they're going to get the 6th seed, maybe even the 5th seed. Yeah. But come back down to earth a little bit, and I'm going to have to go with 7th or 8th seed for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And then that would set you to play either the San Antonio Spurs or the Golden State Warriors. So either way, I think we're probably looking at a playoff berth, but I don't know if it's going to be long-lived, I guess you could say, which is good for this young team. I mean, really, they just need some playoff experience. Get them out there, get them on the floor, get them into the playoff atmosphere, make sure they're playing ample minutes and ample time to understand and play in that rotation in those big moments and big games. So then next year, the year after that, I mean, this Blazers team is replicated very, very similarly to what the Warriors were 3 or 4 years ago, where they went into the first round as an underdog and really proved themselves on a big stage. And I think that's really what Lillard and company have right now. So moving forward, I think that's just get some confidence out of this playoff berth and then basically move forward from there, make some offseason transactions wherever they may be, either retaining Myers Leonard or not retaining him, making sure we shore up that center position, I think is really the big one, because it's kind of an unknown, and then moving forward from there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oliver, when you think of a championship team, you always think of the big three. Of course, we talk about Damian Lillard and C.J. McCollum.
Sure.
We don't have that third guy. Yeah. There's been a lot of guys off the bench that have really impressed me this season. We've got Alan Crabb can step up, Gerald Henderson. But the problem is there's really not that third guy that you can count on consistently day in, day out.
Yeah, and that's really, I mean, if you're going defensively, I think Al-Farouq Aminu is that third guy, but he hasn't been that guy offensively. He's just so inconsistent. His three-point percentage has been out of this world this year, which is just nuts to say. I'm still surprised that it's kind of up in that 38, 39% range, which is just ridiculous. But we don't have that third wheel, and I think Gerald Henderson has kind of moved into that third-person role off the bench. You see him kind of like other players delegate to him when he's on the court, and he gets the ball more. He seems more calm, more collected, more confident. I think he just needed some time to move into this rotation. So that would be where I would see moving forward, at least, if Gerald Henderson stays and continues playing the way he has. I think he's got that it factor that you want in a player, especially when you have to divert to him when Lillard or McCollum aren't on the floor. So.
And a lot of people right now talking about Stotts' starting lineup, really questioning, should Noah Vonleh be the starting power forward right now? That's a good question. In the beginning of the season, I thought I was all for it because I thought it was great experience for this young guy. But in the beginning of the season, I wasn't thinking playoffs. Maybe I know there were people out there that were thinking that. So now that the expectations, everything is really changed. This down the stretch of this season, I don't think you keep Vonleh in the starting lineup. But then I'm not sure who he's going to go with. That's the problem.
Depends on who we play, I think, is the other thing. I mean, is really about. I mean, basketball is a game of matchups, and it's really about trying to play to your opponent or making yourself an advantage to an opponent. Right. And I think if you could potentially have a starting lineup with a Lillard, McCollum, Crabb, or Henderson potentially at the 3 position and move Aminu to the 4. Then you have the option to move any of the 3 guys into center, and I think that's a better option. It's more built for what the NBA is today, which is 3-point shooting, 3-and-D kind of play, run up and down the court. It's a little more mobile. It gives you a little more flexibility there, and your center's legs don't get burnt out quickly. So I think that when they come in, their ability to get up and down the floor quicker is definitely needed. And I think that helps with that. So that would be my assumption, at least playing against a team like the Warriors or playing against a team even like San Antonio, depending on the matchup and stuff. I mean, Aldridge is going to hit that fadeaway shot 9 times out of 10 anyways. Do you put an Aminu on him? Probably not, but it could be worth a shot just to see what would happen. So I think that tampering with that a little bit, especially towards the end of the season, once you kind of know that you're in the playoffs, definitely would be worth a shot.
Coach Stotts the other day told our Blazer insider Jason Quick, "Hey, this is the starting lineup for the rest of the season. Playoffs, we're kind of a different animal, so we'll see what happens." Trust Coach Stotts all the way, but for me, I'm such a planner, and I was think looking ahead, I'd start trying to figure out a different lineup now rather than waiting till the playoffs.
Definitely, and I bet you what they're probably doing is in practice, toying with the idea and seeing what they can do. I mean, this is kind of, you've got your core philosophy down. Players are knowing their roles. They understand them. Now it's time to basically get into different rotations and different matchups potentially for the playoffs. And I think that starts with Dallas. I mean, really, these next couple of games against the Spurs and Pelicans will be telling, but I think that Dallas back-to-back, I guess you could say, home and home or home and away, would be your best opportunity to kind of toy with those ideas and make sure that we continue moving forward, kind of do that in practice. And he may not say that to the media or may not say that to Jason Quick, unfortunately, but I think that, he's got to understand that Noah Vonleh probably isn't ready for this role moving forward. So while it's great to get him experience and playing time and all the rest of it, I think you do have to think team first and win first at this point in time, especially come down the stretch and for the playoffs. Even if the Blazers don't win any of those playoff games, it's crucial to make sure that they're at least within striking distance against these teams, because that gives them the confidence moving forward to know that they can play with them.
And even though Vonleh's still the starter, he's still getting second unit minutes. He's still averaging 15, 16 minutes a game. Sure. So keep that in mind.
And I'd almost toy with that idea. I've said it a million times. I think Myers Leonard needs the confidence. And if you're gonna switch anything, take Noah Vonleh out of the starting lineup, put him on the bench, give him the same minutes that he was getting, but give Myers that confidence boost of starting. You know what I mean? It's not going to give him, extra technical minutes, but it's going to give him the starting minutes that Noah Vonleh was having. And I think that would give you an idea, first of all, of whether you want to re-sign him or not. And then second of all, give you an idea of whether that works better than what Vonleh's giving you. Mm-hmm. So that could be an option as well. The one discussion that I am really curious about is kind of like who you would see yourself best against. If it was between just San Antonio and Golden State, who would you want to play?
That's such a tough one. I have to go with the Warriors. I can go up against Greg Popovich. Plus, we've already seen it in Portland when Dame went off for 51 points. We've talked about it, Oliver, that Lillard really enjoys playing against another high-level guard, and he gets up a little bit more for those kind of games. And I think it would be a really entertaining matchup. Crazy pace, high scoring, I imagine. So I'm going to have to go. I'd like to see the Warriors in that first-round matchup.
I'm definitely going with the Warriors as well. I think that'd just be a continuation on March Madness. Because then you're looking at potentially an up-and-down game just like the college game is right now. I think it's just I think as far as entertainment value, you can't really get any better. It's two of the best backcourts in the NBA on the biggest stage possible in the first round, and a chance to kind of not necessarily scare Golden State, but, get them prepared for what's to come. Yeah, knock them down a little bit and get them prepared for what's to come. I wrote a piece about how similar Golden State and Portland's backcourt is, especially in like the years that you look at them too. Lillard and McCollum just a couple years apart. Clay and Curry, same sort of situation. Both drafted high in the lottery rounds. Their percentages are very similar as far as field goal percentage, as far as assist rate. It's all very, very similar to what the Golden State Warriors got back in 2011, 2012 with Clay and Curry. So looking at it that way, I think that really Portland is looking at themselves in the mirror, looking at Golden State, So I think that matchup would be huge. I think it'd just be awesome to watch. Overall, for a fan perspective, it's just like the best matchup you could possibly ask for.
Oh, it's funny, Oliver. So on Twitter, this must have been a couple weeks ago, I saw this picture, and it said Curry, Clay, and CJ and Dame, right? So it had all of their colleges. So, we've got Davidson, you've got Washington State, you got Weber State, Lehigh. And it said mid-majors. But, you guys, the Pac-12, Washington State, they haven't been good at basketball in quite some time, but they're not a mid-major. So 3 of the 4 guys, I'm with you on that, coming from mid-major schools. But I thought that was really funny that somebody out there was saying, oh, Washington State, mid-major. No, not the case. They just haven't been relevant.
A long time, yeah. I mean, since Clay was there, really, that's really the only time they were relevant, and it was only for a short time. So I think, it's just so similar. I mean, really, you look at Dame, you look at CJ, you look at Clay and Curry, they all have the same sort of build. They use external motivation factors as well. All of them have a chip on their shoulders coming in through the draft and, being overlooked essentially by a lot of teams. There's just a lot of similarities. And then you compare the teams, and they're very similar as well. It's built for the system, right? It's not like one player better than everybody else, although Curry is the guy that you go to. Dame is the guy here. But you have a team surrounding him that is all 3-and-D capable, all basically they trickle down from what Damian does or from what Curry does, you know what I mean? They set the tone. Dame's in the gym all the time, getting prepared, getting ready. Off season, it's the same thing. The Golden State Warriors are very similar in that sense. So I think overall, looking at it, I think the Blazers fans can be very, very happy and looking forward to the future, just seeing what Golden State has done and then what this Portland team is capable of just now in their early years.
You talk about the similarities. Last week I was at Oakland. I went to the Warriors shoot-around, and I couldn't believe how similar in the fact of the team chemistry. You could tell that this Warriors team they definitely like each other. And that's what's something that I think should be talked about more with this Blazers team is how close they really are.
Yeah. No, they definitely are, and you saw it in the offseason. Like, all of them came to optional training camp in San Diego. They all worked together. They all talked together. I mean,
all behind Damian Lillard, like
exactly.
you said.
Yeah, and it's all, I mean, it trickles down, you know what I mean? And so each player has their own way of dealing with things, but a lot of them get along very well. I was on the plane to the All-Star game with like 4 or 5 of the Blazers. They didn't have to be there. They didn't have to go. They didn't have to, travel, but they're there and they're all together and they're all chatting and having fun, and it's just a different atmosphere than what it would have been even last year. And the emotional side, the physical side, everything is very comparable. And I think what Neil Olshey did was look for personalities that are very similar to what Lillard has or what McCollum clearly has as well, and paint the picture for all the rest of the players. This is what we want to build. This is why we're here. This is what we want. And those players got it. They understood it, and that's why they signed here. That's why they came here. Mm-hmm. So looking at that, I just think they've done a brilliant job of building the right egos, meshing the right molds together to kind of get this team raring to go, and really overlooked at the beginning of the season. Now we're looking at it in the playoffs when we were only supposed to win about 27 games. So it's just it's been a heck of a season, no matter what happens. Right. Yeah.
Exactly. I was thinking that too. Like, even if the Blazers at 14 more games, even if it's absolutely awful, still it's been a fun ride.
It has, and I think it's more exciting this way than it is the other way, where last year we knew we were 50 wins. You can almost chalk it up and put it in there. Wesley Matthews did. You knew what you got from all of them. So then this season coming in, I know like Mike Barrett talked about it with me. You had no expectation. You had no idea what was going to happen. And so like coming into it, it's just so much more entertaining and exciting to know night in and night out, all the guys are given 150%. They're all working for a position. They're all working for a job. You've got tons of guys that are restricted free agents or free agents in the offseason, and knowing that they're on 2 or 3 year contracts, they're always working to get better. And I think that all filters from what Damian Lillard's aspect of playing basketball is, and what C.J. McCollum does, and what Myers Leonard does as well. They all work extra hard to do whatever they can to get this team to succeed.
That's cool. So I know you want to talk a little jerseys uniform talk, right?
So I had like multiple people telling me, I like the red jerseys, I like the white ones, I like the black. I was kind of curious, your thoughts. What's your favorite uniform color, and then what's your second favorite uniform color?
Favorite is I like the red ones. The ones they wore against Oklahoma City. Yeah. Team Mom on Twitter. She had the stats on all the jerseys. Which ones the Blazers won and lost more games. I thought that was pretty cool. I don't remember exactly. I know.
Yeah, that's incredible. That's some pretty impressive stuff.
It was really impressive. Everyone gives the sleeve jerseys a hard time, but around the league, the Blazers, the Rip City ones, they're the best ones in the NBA because some of those sleeve jerseys are so ugly.
Yeah, I'm all about the Rip City ones. I think those are really, really nice looking. I actually like the sleeves, and I know everybody hates the sleeves. I like the sleeves. I think it's cool. It's different. And I completely understand all the other players hating them, but really, it's funny to me because watching players without the sleeves, they have a sleeve shirt under their jersey. So what's the difference if you're just going to combine the two or wear them separately? I don't know. I find it very funny and interesting. But my favorite are the white ones, the Rip City ones. I think those are just totally unique and original, a lot different. And then I actually like the black ones. I think those are just the classic kind of look. But, there's always room for improvement. I think the red and the black, I think they could transition, one or the other to a different style, and then have 3 separate jerseys, if that makes sense, or 3 separate kind of logos. But we'll see what happens.
You're all about the alternate jerseys. I like it. Okay.
Yeah, alternate jerseys are cool. I don't know. I just think they're different. You don't see them as often on the players, so maybe that's the reason why I like them more. Okay. Yeah, I don't know what Team Mom's stats are on those jerseys, but
I know. I gotta look that up again.
That's
Can't remember.
Interesting one. Yeah. That's an interesting one. I didn't know that people kept stats of like jerseys and which ones they wore, but if there was anybody to do it, I think that'd probably be a mother.
Right, for sure. No, there's stats on everything these days. It's so crazy. Yeah, so even the jerseys.
There you go. So the next one I was kind of curious about. I have a question just kind of out there in the middle of nowhere.
Oh boy.
Players you would you most like to cover for the Blazers specifically.
We got the stats right here.
Oh, there you go. Okay,
Thanks, John Curry. Okay.
There we go. Okay.
Check these out. The percentages.
Well, there we go. That's why mine is the best. Rip City Sleeves, it's 100%.
Okay, with only 4 games played. 4-0, okay.
4-0. 4-0. The red ones, you're trailing at 40%. They've only played in them 5 times. I'm sorry, but there's a red home and a red away. Tricky. Combining the two, you're at like 30% though. The white home ones seem to be doing pretty well. I didn't know we had just a. Oh yeah. So white and then black is 40%. So if you're looking at it from a rankings and statistics standpoint, the black away jerseys are 13-19. The red away jerseys are 1-3. The red home jerseys are 2-3. The Rip City sleeve jerseys that I was talking about are 4-0. And then the white home jerseys are 15-9. So overall, I think we'd probably want to be wearing the white ones if we could for the rest of the season.
Yes, that would be good.
Yeah, I'm assuming they can just change all the uniforms and make sure that we wear white for the rest of the season. I don't think that'd be too hard. But moving forward, like I said, I'm really curious to hear your take. Who's your favorite player to cover and why on this Blazers team?
Oh, we talked about this on the Scoop one time, didn't we?
I think so.
Yeah. Okay.
I think it was not. Was it a player? I think it was a player. Maybe it was.
Okay, maybe not. Maybe there's just so many different conversations. Who knows, Oliver?
Conversations.
It's funny. Last season, I gotta say, Wesley Matthews was always the guy in the locker room that if I didn't ask enough questions, he would tell me. He'd say, "What? Come on, why aren't you asking me more questions?" Sure. He always made me better at my job, and he always really tried. So Wes last year was the guy that I enjoyed covering the most because he wanted to do that interview. He wanted to talk to us most of the time. Obviously, Damian Lillard is probably one of the best guys that you can get an interview out. He always has the most well thought out questions. But this whole team, there's not one guy that I wouldn't say I don't enjoy covering. Yeah. And that's what's made this season so fun and my job so fun this year, Yeah,
it is a lot more fun when you have players who are willing to kind of talk to you and open up and be honest about things and not really no comment or whatever the case may be. I know.
No Russell Westbrook.
Yeah, Russell Westbrook, Draymond Green. You could go down the list of guys. But, I think that's a really cool part about it. And even if, you may not have the greatest relationship with one or the other, it doesn't really make a difference. It seems like all of them answer your questions. They're very candid about it and open. And I think that's a really interesting, kind of piece to this Blazers team as well.
Mm-hmm. And I understand that it is, especially after hard losses, that you don't want to talk to the media. I totally get it. So it makes it hard because at times I think, I don't want to ask that question, but it's my job, and it is part of their job to be able to do these interviews and be willing to talk to the reporters.
That's why they get paid the big bucks.
Yeah, something like that.
Something along those lines. Yeah. No. I would have to say I think CJ is definitely an interesting. He's just totally different and out there. I think he's. I think he has the media perspective down, obviously, doing all the Players Tribune articles, the CJ's Press Pass, the radio show. I mean, you name it, he's in every single format you could possibly get. And yet he still plays basketball at the highest level and does a really good job at it. And I think that's an intriguing angle that a lot of players don't have. I know J.J. Redick in L.A. is doing his own podcast, but is he doing his own radio show? Is he writing articles in the Player Tribune? Is he still playing hard and working out every day and getting better at his basketball IQ and doing things around this Blazers organization to help as well? I think there's just a lot of guys that people don't really consider basketball players to be a full-time job. They just come to the game right before the game, get warmed up, play the game, and then they leave. But I think a lot of us take for granted a lot of the stuff that these players do, and playing 8 to 10 to 12 hours of not only just the game, but then they've got the pregame media, and they've got their pregame workout and walkthrough, and then they've got their postgame, and then they've got either a flight somewhere else or a short night sleep, and then up in the morning to do a practice or a game or whatever the case may be. So I think that's just a lot of stuff that people take for granted, and I think that if I was to choose one player, I think CJ would be that guy just because he does so much off the court.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he's kind of a character too. He is fun. Yeah.
He'll throw stuff at you when you don't know it. I mean, I wrote, I want to say it was one of the first articles of the year. I sent it over to him. I'm like, hey, take a look at it. I put a lot of stuff about you in there, and like midway through, I want to say about 10 minutes later, he sends me back, hey, this is grammatically wrong, and I was like, oh man, So the fact that they're reading it and like going through it and saying to you, hey, this is a mistake, that's pretty awesome. As much as I didn't like it and was embarrassed for the same reason, it's pretty cool to be able to do that. So yeah. And then what do you want to talk about next? I mean, there's a ton of different topics to talk about. I think we've covered most of them.
I think so too. I'm feeling good about this sideline report. It's been fun. It's been good.
Yeah, it's been good. It's been good. It's been a long time since we've done the last one. I mean, it's like 2 months now, and hopefully we'll get a guest on sometime. That's my hope. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Hopefully sometime.
Yeah. I like it.
But I guess the last question I'm going to leave you with. We talked about the best starting five about 2 months ago, but now this team is in a totally different arena, essentially, as far as playoffs, not playoffs, whatever the case may be. Who do you think the best starting five is for this Blazers team moving forward?
Well, we already talked a little Noah Vonleh and how I'm up in the air about him. Go ahead, Gray. Oh, you're good. Oh, good. Well, shoot. That I didn't think we were talking all starting five. I don't want to change anything else but Vonleh. Okay. And then obviously we talked matchup. I like Allen Crabbe in there. If the Blazers aren't playing a big team.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, makes sense. Okay, so if Allen Crabbe has a big game in the playoffs, is there a She-Hawk continuation?
People have been asking about the She-Hawk on Twitter. Yeah, that'll have to come back. I thought it was a one and done, but people love it.
I think a bet needs to be in play. Like maybe go up to Allen Crabbe, you say, hey, 20 points or more tonight in a playoff. Pass the first round, and you have to wear the She-Hawk for the rest of the playoffs.
Wow,
what do you think?
That's a lot of She-Hawk. I'm traveling for the playoffs, which I just found out. Maybe it'll depend on where we're going exactly to bring the She-Hawk.
I don't know. I think it would be a good look. You may end up on Talking Ball.
Yeah. Did the first time. Split the first two. Game 3, She-Hawk. Okay. Yeah. But AC needs to bring it. I mean, I'm going to have to talk to him.
Yeah, it's got to be like double-digit points for each game or something like that. You got to be something involved. I think, and if he has like a breakout game, I think there's got to be more. You got She-Hawk, and then maybe the national anthem for a game.
Me, I'm not singing it. Oh, no. You do not want to hear it. It would be so bad. It would be awful.
What is he going to do? Oh, no, I'm not doing that.
Oh, yeah. So just me. You're not going to do anything, Oliver?
Well,
what the heck?
I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I don't have the hair for this.
Yeah, you kind of have Pat Connaughton look. You could grow a little, what's it called? Fu Manchu that Connaughton has right now.
Well, I guess I could do it. I guess I'd have to talk to Pat. We'd have to figure that out, Yeah, maybe we could.
Well, we got time. We got a little bit. Yeah, I like it, though. Cool.
But Pat's probably not going to play very much, so maybe that helps me out a little bit more.
Yeah, but he's one of the best ones off the bench. He's the first one off the bench to give a high five. So that's good. Yeah. So we could just see you jumping off the bench.
There we go. Yeah, that's a good idea. No.
We'll see. We'll see what happens. Okay, sweet. All right, thanks, Oliver. That's another edition of the Sideline Report. Thanks for hanging out with us today. Talking Blazers. Thanks, Oliver.
Yeah, thank you.